If I showed you my desktop background, my Steam background, the disc plates on my wall, the lighting in my room and on my computer, could you guess my favourite video game of the past 10 years? If you'd have guessed Cyberpunk, you would be absolutely spot on. Now, despite the game's rocky to say the least launch, I got extremely lucky not to suffer any game-breaking bugs, and I had only just recently upgraded to an insane water-cooled top-of-the-line gaming system at the time, so I was able to drink Night City in all of its glory from day one, and I absolutely lost myself in the neon backlit sin-soaked hellscape. At the time of recording, I'm approaching 500 hours spent spinning the blocks of Haywood, and I'm getting the itch to start yet another new playthrough, having not yet raided Konpeki Plaza in the year 2026. Add to that the fact that just under a year and a half ago, I reignited a passion from my childhood in Pokemon and began collecting cards, and you can probably see why I decided that the Cyberpunk TCG was an absolute must-buy for me. But have I blown 500 eddies up the wall? In this video, I'm going to take you through the thought process I had when deciding to spend that kind of money on a product that technically doesn't even exist yet, and why I think it wasn't as stupid an idea as it sounds on paper. So part 1, why did I buy in? So like I touched on in the intro, I absolutely love the Cyberpunk universe. I've played the game to 100% completion at least once a year since its release, listened to hours upon hours of extensive lore breakdowns on long walks with my dog made by incredible YouTubers like Wisefish and Watchman Gaming about all of the events that are either just passingly mentioned in the game or even further back in the source material for the tabletop RPG. I had never watched an anime outside of the Pokemon series as a kid, yet Edge Runners was an instant watch for me, and despite not being a big anime fan in my adulthood, I really enjoyed the depiction it gave of Night City and felt that that medium might even be the perfect way to tell a story in the Cyberpunk universe. So you would think, with all that being said, that I'd have been super early to know about the TCG, right? Well, actually no. It wasn't until scrolling Instagram of all places, an app that I open once in a blue moon after receiving a notification of a friend's new story, that I received a target ad stating, "Cyberpunk is the most funded Kickstarter game in history." I struggle to remember the last time I clicked a link that fast, and I was met by a staggering amount of money that had been pledged. I think at the time it was $16 million, and as you can see, it's almost doubled since then. I scrolled through the campaign, I loved what I saw, and then I went straight to the reward tab to decide which tier I would be pledging at. So what did I buy? So the hardest decision for me wasn't whether or not I was buying in, but at what tier could I realistically afford to get involved. As much as I would love to be major leagues enough,
this is how you want to cruise into the major leagues,
to buy the insane $8,000 tier, that was around 20 times beyond my budget, so my choices came down to the $350 Netrunner starter kit or the $500 Street Cred pack. The reason being that those are the two lowest cost tiers that also include the beta box, an insane stretch goal that had more Kickstarter exclusive beta cards added every time the campaign hit a milestone, and as you saw, they hit a lot of milestones along the way. So the beta box is now absolutely jam-packed with insanely cool looking holo cards, metal cards, playmats and more. I ended up plumping for the cheaper of the two, the $350 Netrunner starter kit, which includes 2 starter decks from the base tier pledge, 2 36-pack booster boxes compared to a retail booster box's normal 24 packs, and that all-important stretch goal beta box. Now I know I put $500 in the title of this video, and I promise you that's not clickbait. You see, I'm also going to be placing a retail pre-order with a local game store to ensure that I can open some packs here on the channel and get hands on with the cards as soon as possible, as there is a slight possibility I may experience some delays in receiving my Kickstarter products due to choosing the pledge over time option. And so now comes the part of this video where I try and justify in my head why I made the right choice to enter yet another hobby, and for me this breaks down into 2 main parts: availability and optimism. So first off, availability. As I mentioned briefly in my intro, I rekindled my interest in the Pokemon games around a year and a half ago, and in the Pokemon TCG a few months after that. I have a full video on my channel detailing that journey, so if you're interested, I would highly encourage you to go and watch that. But in a nutshell, I unknowingly got into Pokemon at a horrible time, right before the prismatic evolutions boom, and I've struggled to participate in the card hobby due to the fact that I've got quite bad social agoraphobia and I can't go store hunting for packs on release dates, so I have to rely on online channels to get cards. But because of that same issue, I'm obviously someone who's crying out for a hobby that I can enjoy at home. researching new things and just passing the hours in the day. I spoke at length in my previous video about how I intend to switch up my collecting goals in Pokemon next year to combat the scalping situation, focusing on buying vintage part collections and single cards instead of new sealed product after the 30th anniversary. But finding out there was a new TCG based on a property that I absolutely adore and I know a ton about, that I can't imagine will be anywhere as near as popular with scalpers and resellers, it was a no-brainer for me to throw a chunk of my Pokemon funds towards that as well, as I'll still be able to hunt down my vintage Pokemon as planned, whilst, hopefully, also have something I can regularly enjoy opening at retail pricing without as much of a headache. And then secondly, optimism. Now, just because I don't think the Cyberpunk TCG will be quite as enticing to the wrong type of people as Pokemon and more recently One Piece, that doesn't mean I don't believe it has any appeal or staying power. I mean, the wild success of the Kickstarter proves that there's demand, but breaking those numbers down, we actually see that the $28 million was funded by just over 50,000 people, putting the average spend at over $550 per backer, with 7 of the limited edition $8,000 tiers being completely sold out to 100 backers each. Now, to me personally, that reads like this TCG is being backed by people passionate about the card game, the video game, or the Cyberpunk universe at large, which means I can't see any reason that this can't become a well-established card collecting hobby in the future. We know that they're already working on the next installment of the game, dubbed Project Orion at this stage, which will be a massive shot in the arm a few years down the line, and the extremely well-received anime Edgerunners is getting a new season long before that, so there will be plenty of new interest in the property throughout the TCG's lifespan. The higher tiers of Kickstarter pledges come with CGC graded examples of some beta cards, meaning graded cards are going to be a thing, at least with that particular company, and I imagine that will mean other companies will be available for grading services down the line, as they won't want to lose out on potential grading fees to a competitor. And then finally, and I think for me this is the biggest positive, is Cyberpunk's history. Remember, this game started as an old school tabletop RPG, a community that is far more likely to integrate a card game into their active hobbies. And even although I'm personally not somebody who gets to partake in those kinds of activities for the reasons I mentioned earlier, struggling to get out and socialise, I understand that for a TCG to have any real reason to exist, it has to actually fulfill the G part of that moniker. It has to be a game. There needs to be a reason for new sets to actually be created and have a reason to be integrated into new decks and new releases to be well thought out and sought out. I think something that will definitely work in Cyberpunk's favour is its long history within those types of communities. So that is why I believe I made the right choice to back the Cyberpunk TCG Kickstarter. But what do you guys think? Is it hope, is it cope, or is it something in between? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you backed the project and whether you're more excited to see video game based cards or cards from the anime. At the end of it all, even if it is a flash in the pan and it doesn't really go anywhere long term, I don't think I'm going to regret buying in. I truly do love the world that it's set in, and I'll get to fill out a binder with insanely cool artworks from that world, even if the binder ends up being more valuable than the cards inside. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one.